And you are their savior. Your strength will be their shield, and your will their sword. You remain unbroken, for your might is eternal.
Hey, what's up guys, Toby from the Master Box Show, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Necrotic, fear, and chaos. That is the theme for today's build. I wanted to showcase a build that is the very essence of demonic power. A being that is pure darkness, a fallen warrior of the light that has completely embraced the dark side, using its final remnants of its holy power to obliterate anything in its wake. While being the incarnation of fear and necrotic power, this build is perfect for an evil playthrough and can very much solo anything in the game or be a commanding presence in your party. I present to you the Dark Lord. Without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, here we are now guys in the character creation screen. This is where we will be building the foundation of our Dark Lord for today. This is the first time for me to be introducing a build that would be perfect for the two characters that we have in the game. Number one is that they have specific skill set or abilities that are unique to them that we can utilize to make the Dark Lord as powerful as possible, as well as it is very thematic for the build. Just wanted to let you know, you can actually use any origin character or a custom character if you prefer. So for the origin characters that I'm talking about, the build is perfect for the Dark Urge, and the other one will be Karlach due to the unique abilities of Karlach. So if ever you're gonna be making a custom, I highly advise you go with the two races that I'll be mentioning. But if you don't mind min-maxing or going the most optimized route, you can actually get whatever race that you prefer for as long as you're happy with them. That being said, the races that I'm talking about is the Tiefling and the Half-Orc. For the Half-Orc, it has the race features such as base racial speed, dark vision, and the really powerful savage attack. As for the other one, which is the Tiefling, it has the same race feature like the base racial speed as well as the dark vision. The only difference is that it has hellish resistance, which gives us resistance to fire damage, and we only take half damage from it. For today's build, I'll be going with the Tiefling, and I'll be selecting the Zerial Tiefling for us to get a really nice cantrip that will give us advantages within our intimidation and performance checks. So for the classes, that'll be perfect for the Tiefling, which is the Paladin. The Paladin will be our fundamental class that will give us the most power for our build, especially in the early game. For the subclass, we'll be taking the Oath of Vengeance. That will give us the action of Inquisitor's Smite. We can add 2 radiant damage to our weapon attacks for 2 turns. For the backgrounds, there are 2 backgrounds that are interesting for the build. Starting with the soldier that will give us skills in athletics and intimidation, and the other one is the guild artisan that will grant us insight and persuasion. For the abilities, most likely it will look like this. We'll be prioritizing, especially in the early game, constitution, dexterity, and a little bit of charisma. Right after character creation, we are now moving into level 2 of our character, which is our Dark Lord. For this level, we are unlocking one of the most important actions that we will be needing for the build, which is the Divine Smites. This is the one that will deliver as much damage as possible to our opponents using our radiant damage. We unlock Divine Smite for weapons, Divine Smite reaction, as well as Divine Smite critical reaction. For this level, you also get the fighting style that you will be needing for the build, particularly the Great Weapon Fighting. When we roll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack with a two-handed melee weapon, the die is re-rolled once. And also for this level, you can start breaking your oath and become an Oath Breaker Paladin around level 2. For level 3 of our Oath Breaker, we can actually move into a different class and introduce our first multi-class in the game. But if you prefer, you can actually get this action, particularly if you want to spread as much fear as possible to your enemies, the dreadful aspect that lets your dark emotion burst forth and frighten nearby enemies for 2 turns with just the cost of your channel oath charges. But for this build, we will be introducing our first multi-class around level 3 in order for us to get a certain spell that we will be needing for the build as early as possible. So we will be introducing the cleric class, particularly the subclass Light Domain. The Light Domain gives us a few Light Domain spells such as the Burning Hands and Fairy Fire, as well as the subclass feature, the Warding Flare, that will grant us the ability to use a reaction to impose disadvantage to our attacker and possibly cause their attacks to miss. For the cantrips, you can just get any cantrips that you prefer. I highly advise you get Resistance or maybe Guidance if you don't have it already. Level 4 of our character, which is level 2 of our cleric, we now unlock a few actions such as Turn Undead that will fear most undead creatures with 3 turns, as well as one of the really cool Radiance of the Dawn that damages enemies of 2d10 plus 3 radiant damage with just the cost of our channel divinity. Level 3 of our cleric and level 5 of our character, still focusing on our cleric class, we now have a few spells that are really nice for the build, particularly the Aid spell that will grant us 5 additional hit points, and it has the ability to be upcasted to give us more hit points until long rest. Level 6 of our character, which is level 4 of our cleric, we unlock our first feat of the build. We are eyeing on the Great Weapon Master. Whenever we land a critical hit on a target with a melee attack, we can make another melee weapon attack as a bonus action for that turn. It also gives us plus 10 weapon damage. For the cantrips, you can just get any cantrips that are remaining that you prefer. I'll just go with the Produce Flame. Level 7 of our character, which is level 5 of our cleric, we now have our first major power spike of the build because we just unlocked one of the most important spells that we need for our Dark Lord, particularly the Spirit Guardian. We call forth spirits that protect us, that deals 3 to 4 radiant or necrotic damage per turn and slows the movement speed of enemies in that area. We will be utilizing more on our necrotic damage. Level 8 will be the level that we will be returning to our Oath Breaker class in order for us to get additional perks that we need for this build. As I mentioned earlier, you can actually get the dreadful aspect as early as possible on previous levels, but for me, I prefer to get the Spirit Guardian as early as possible, as well as it will give us more charges for us to use for our smites. Level 9 of our character, still focusing on our Paladin class, we are now unlocking our second feat of the build, which is the ability improvement. We will be focusing all of it into our dexterity and dumping it until it reaches 19. If you have the hair from Anti-Ethel, most likely this will be 20. Level 10 of our character, we now have our class feature from our Paladin, which is the extra attack, giving us a chance to attack twice, as well as a few interesting spells from our Oathbreaker, such as Darkness and Crown of Madness. Level 11 is the level that we'll be introducing our final class to the build, the Warlock class. This will grant us one of the most powerful cantrips in the game, which is the Eldritch Blast, but we are eyeing on a specific subclass for us to make our build as powerful as possible. I'm talking about the Great Old One, which will grant us the Mortal Reminder subclass feature. When we land a critical hit against the creature and any nearby creature must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or become frightened. As for the cantrips, obviously we'll be taking the Eldritch Blast, and if ever you prefer, you can just get Minor Illusion if you haven't already. Finally, for level 12, we are focusing still on our Warlock class in order for us to get a few Eldritch Invocation that is beneficial for the build, which is the Agonizing Blast that will add our Charisma modifier to our Eldritch Blast, as well as the Devil's Sight that will basically grant us immunity from blindness. Devil's Sight will go really well with our Oathbreaker spell, Darkness, if you want to go the Darkness route. Alright, now we're gonna be talking about the item setup that you will be needing for the build. I have 2 builds for you guys today, starting with the early game build as well as the end game build. For the early game build, it is composed of Act 1 and Act 2, and we have some really powerful items for you guys to make the Dark Lord as powerful as possible and as early as possible. We'll be starting with the helmet. I'm talking about the Grimskull helmet that will prevent any attackers from landing a critical hit, as well as a free Hunter's Mark spell. Next is the Flesh Melter's Cloak that will grant us the passive the Caustic Reprisal. Whenever a creature deals a melee damage to the wearer, the creature will take 1 to 4 acid damage. For the armor, we'll be taking the Adamantine Splint armor that will grant us Magical Plate passive. All incoming damage will reduce by 2, as well as an intense Adamantine Backlash. Whenever a melee attack hits us, there will be sent reeling for 3 turns. For the gloves, we'll be taking the Flawed Helda's gloves that will grant us the Lesser Infernal Touch. Our weapon attacks will deal additional 1 to 4 fire damage. For the boots, we'll be increasing our AC with the Evasive Shoes that will grant us +1 to our acrobatics, as well as +1 to our AC. As for the rings, we'll be taking the Ring of Protection, +1 to our AC, as well as a +1 to our saving throw. Finally, for the rings, we'll be taking the Caustic Band as early as possible. That will grant us the passive Malefic Excretion. Our weapon attack also deals +2 acid damage. For the weapons, we'll be taking the Yorgos Greatsword. It has a really cool weapon attack which is called the Colossal Onslaught that will channel our strength and strike all of the creatures in a line AoE every short rest. And I highly advise whenever you land in Act 2, you take the Drake Throat Glaive as early as possible for us to get more elemental damage with the use of Draconic elemental weapons. Now we're going to be talking about the Act 3 build. In order for you to make the Dark Lord as powerful as possible, there are a few items that I'll be choosing for us to make this happen, and a few alternatives if you haven't acquired the items yet. We're going to be starting with our Saravox Horned Helmet. This will grant us the passive feature Deathbringer Sight. Basically grants us dark vision, but the most important thing here is the number of rolls we need to land a critical hit while attacking a target is reduced by 1. We also get Dauntless that gives us immunity against Feared, as well as a few Constitution saving throws. One of the alternatives for this helmet is the Horns of the Berserker that will grant us the Seeking Blood. We gain +2 bonus to our attack rolls when we attack creatures that are already taking damage, as well as the Bloodthirst. Whenever we attack with our melee weapon, we gain 2 necrotic damage for as long as we are not 100% health. Next up is the Armor of the Agility. We get the Exotic Material passive that will add our full Dexterity modifier to our AC. Third is the Gauntlets of the Hill Giant Strength that will basically gives us 23 strength. For the amulets, I highly advise you take the Amulet of the Greater Health that will grant us for our Constitution up to 23. For the rings, we'll be taking the Executioner. Whenever we kill a creature, our next attack roll will be a guaranteed critical hit once per long rest. For the weapons, I highly advise you take Baldur's Giant Slayer. It will grant us the passive Giant Slayer. On hit, double the damage from your strength modifier. This weapon grants us advantage on attack rolls against large, huge, and gargantuan creatures, as well as this really nice giant form. Our weapon deals additional 1d6 damage, as well as we gain 27 temporary hit points. Another alternative for the weapon is that you can get the Sword of Chaos that will grant you the passive Chaos. On hit, we regain 1 to 6 of our hit points, as well as a +1d4 necrotic damage. Finally, for the bows, you can get the Dead Shot to get the passive Improved Critical. The number of critical rolls that we need to land a critical hit is reduced by 1. Alright, now I'm going to be showing you guys some active gameplay on how we properly utilize our Dark Lord. On turn 1 or whenever you can actually activate the effect of our Drake Throat Glaive in order for us to imbue more elemental damage to our weapons. In my case, I will be granting elemental damage to our Baldur's Greatsword, particularly maybe just whatever element that you prefer. I'll just go with lightning for today's build. So I'll be using Draconic elemental weapon from our Drake Throat Glaive and imbuing it with lightning damage. Now we'll be picking it up. We now have additional elemental lightning damage to our Baldur's Giant Slayer. And if you want to really go fancy, you can use the Elixir of Bloodlust that will grant us 5 temporary hit points every time we kill a foe, as well as an additional action per turn until long rest. So we can just use this before a battle. That will grant us the Elixir of Bloodlust. And if ever you are using Karlach, I highly advise you use the Soul Coin if you want to fight the boss or if you want just to decimate any opponents in your path, as it will grant you this really nice aura, which is the Infernal Fury. Until long rest, we gain additional 1 to 4 fire damage when our HP is below 25%. So before we start a battle, we will be using Giant Form to increase our HP and add our strength modifier to our damage for 10 turns, and we'll be activating our Spirit Guardian Necrotic damage, and we'll be pumping it to level 4 for us to deal as much AoE damage as we can, and we are now basically ready to fight. Now we are starting a battle with our Dark Lord. We just proc our Warding Flare. This will grant us the chance to impose disadvantage to our attacker and probably make them miss. We just got a miss. Miss again. And miss again. Now we'll be moving our Dark Lord just to deal damage to our target. We're just using our melee attack here, and we'll be using one of our smites, just level 1, just to show you how powerful this build can be. And we'll be using maybe just to daze this character here. Just got a miss, and we'll be ending our turn. Now it's time for us to showcase the power of our Dark Lord. We'll be just utilizing the power of our smites in order for us to just dish out damage to our targets here. We just got the ability Executioner, and we just obliterated that opponent there. We'll be using our Great Weapon Master bonus attack to dish out damage to our target. We can use Smite, and we can attack again. Be dispatching another creature here, and using Smite again. We just dispatched 3 characters or 3 enemies in that turn, and keep the Spirit Guardian active to our opponents. We had an opportunity attack. We'll try to use Executioner here just for the sake of it. I just grant a crit. Really nice crit there. And finishing out with maybe a level 2 Divine Smite critical. Now for this turn, we'll be showcasing the power of our Dreadful Aspect for us to have a really nice AoE fear around our targets. As you see here, we just had fear on our opponents, and that will be preventing them to move. Now it's time for us to move our Dark Lord again, and we'll try to melee down these opponents here. We just got a critical miss of a 98% attack. We'll be utilizing Luck of the Four Realms to guarantee a crit and for us to activate our Mortal Reminder. Now the Mortal Reminder is active. As you see here, the enemy is already feared. We now have a chance to use our bonus action here to dish out damage to our opponents. I want to move to another target there, just for the sake of just to deal damage. So I'll try to attack opponent here. Now we just frightened another character and obliterated one of them. And we can end our turn happily, as the opponents won't be moving from their spot due to the fear. So the enemies are just standing there, waiting to die and to be meleeed down by our Dark Lord. So we'll just finish up these targets here. He's dead. And finish up this target here. Alright guys, thank you for watching the build. It is a really powerful build to use, especially if you want a tank that can obliterate your opponents and spread fear as wide as possible, and to be just an absolute monster in the battlefield. This build is perfect for your solo play, or if you want to add them in your party for your honor mode. And it also goes really well with Harlack if you want to more of a thematic approach. And if ever you want to add this character as one of your Dark Urge play, it is perfectly viable. And yeah, would love to know your thoughts guys, or anything that you want to add through the build, as well as your questions and clarifications in a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the like button if you guys like the build. Shout out to all the people who subscribe and keep supporting the channel. I really appreciate you guys for all of the amazing support. And for all the people who haven't subscribed yet, I hope I earn your subscriptions in the future. But if I earn it today, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to support me directly, please consider hitting that join button and joining our D20 Rollers Club. You can actually join our Discord with the guys. I actually post a lot of build videos there, as well as a few build inspirations. Finally, that's it for me. I hope to see you soon on the next Master Box Show. Peace out. Bye guys.